Welcome to Commander Pop Culture, a place to gather magical information with some laughs, might I add. Hello everyone, welcome to my deck tech for 3 Dog, Galaxy News DJ, the man who brings you the truth. Anyways, I'm going to go over each card individually that presents a unique space for this deck. I won't be talking about removal, card draw, and ramp unless it adds a bit of a synergy piece and density, but we're going to get started. If you don't know what 3 Dog already does, he is a 1/5 body, so he kind of blocks a lot of stuff, and then whenever you attack, you may pay 2 to sack an aura attached to 3 Dog, and then you get to dump all your auras onto all your creatures. So you want to go wide and at the same time make 3 Dog just a little bit tall. Something I've came across when playtesting this is that you do experience a bit of a bottleneck when you play this deck because you want to spread the enchantments onto your other creatures, and you can only do that once per combat unless you string extra combat spells into your game plan. There's also a mana cost bottleneck, so you'll want to invest mana into an aura, and then you need to have mana left over for the attack trigger. Of the drawbacks, there are some good things. 3 Dog doesn't have to be among the creatures attacking, so you can just let them sit back and then pass the auras along.
Coming to you tape from my fortified bunker in the middle of the DC hellhole. Life grand.
To start off, we're going to go with our creatures. We have Hero of Aros. This kind of fits your ramp package in that it's cost reduction for your aura spell. You're playing 25 enchantments, and then there's 1 bestow creature, so I think 26 in total. You get a lot of mileage out of the coupons versus a rock because it lets you string multiple spells together. I guess rocks do that too. It allows you to go a lot further with a coupon. If you've never noticed the power of coupons, you just start playing and then just count how many spells you could play in a single turn versus if it was just a 2-mana rock, and you'd be surprised. Core Spirit Dancer. This cantrips off your auras. You don't necessarily care about how many are on it for the stat buff, you just care about the card draw. Selfless Spirit, because this is a creature deck, your creature count appears to be low, but as I go through this list, I'll show you how you can make that creature count significantly higher. Selfless Spirit fixes your crux of the deck, which is you're vulnerable to board wipes. Ceramsine Artificer, another enchantress for the deck. Starfield Mystic, another coupon for enchantments. Transcendent Envoy, that's my 3rd coupon. I think that's all of them. Combine this with my mana rocks, you have, I guess, 11 production to satisfy that slot. And Impekal, 1000th Moon, doesn't have to be the one that attacks, so it could potentially do something the turn you play it. It just cares that a non-gnome is attacking. But what's significant about this is it's also an attack trigger. So when you combine it with 3 Dog, you could layer the triggers in such a way where the tokens you put in with Impekal will also get the enchantment getting passed on to them, because the tokens that you make from Anim are also attacking, and that also helps boost your creature count nice and high. You just have to verbalize the order that you want the triggers to happen. In this case, you'd say, I'm putting 3 Dogs trigger on stack first, Impekal's on second, Anim resolves first, 3 Dog after. And then all the attacking gnomes that you make with Anim will also get enchantments thrown on them. Brotherhood Outcasts, because you're sacrificing your auras to 3 Dog. If you ever want them back, you need a recovery package. I also like that it's on a body to keep your creature count nice and high, so it's pretty dense. Should you not have auras in your graveyard to bring back to the battlefield, you could put a shield counter on 3 Dog and protect him that way. Other parts I want to mention is I love white for its ability to bring back permanents of 3 or less value from the graveyard to play. You skip the mana investment. There are a lot of recovery options for auras that put stuff in your hand, but that can be mana taxing. I want it to happen right now, like J.G. Wentworth.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
For J.G. Wentworth.
Brotherhood Outcast fulfills that quite nicely, and I have a lot of other cards that do the same thing. Item the Countless Battles. In paper, this card will be a nightmare for you to calculate because it cares about your creature count and it cares about your aura count. If you play this on its bestow side, get ready for some serious math. I don't know if algebra is your best subject, but this is one of your closer kind of auras in your deck. I would probably never play this on its creature side. The other nice part about bestow is should the creature that it's enchanting dies, it comes into play as a creature. You kind of dodge the other crux of auras in that if a creature dies, you lose that as well. You regain a resource. Handwar Garrison, this is another attacker that puts attacking bodies into play, so everything will get the aura from 3-Dog. Heliod's Pilgrim, just a nice budget-friendly tutor for auras. Something I forgot to mention is that this is a budget deck. You could buy this deck for $75. I think it's quite powerful. Kellen, the Fey-Blooded. This guy seems like he was hand-designed by the WotC gods to be in this deck, because not only does he tutor, but he buffs all your dudes based on how many auras are on Kellen. All your creatures are going to get super big based on how many auras are already on him from 3-Dog. Mesa Enchantress, we all know what Enchantresses do. Monastery Mentor. I remember when this was a $20 card, and here we are, it's $2.50. The significance about this is whenever you cast a non-creature spell, i.e. auras, or, you know, the other things that aren't creatures, you got at least 40 plus spells in your deck that aren't creatures. The tokens you make from Monastery Swiftspear also have prowess. They'll scale off of when you cast anything, practically, and you'll have an even more lethal board at your disposal. Ajani's Chosen. This is a card that came out before Constellation was a keyword in Magic and Theros. Whenever an enchantment enters battlefield, make a 2/2 cat. And since you're cheesing in a bunch of auras into play, if you have even a small board, it gets increasingly bigger as time passes. This is like one of those things that's very snowbally in nature and should alarm your opponents. If they ignore it, that might be a mistake. Arch on a Sun's Grace does the same thing as the Johnny's Chosen, just the token body is slightly better because they'll have lifelink and flying. Keeps your life total nice and high, lets you play with Reckless Abandon. When I play aggro decks, I particularly like Vigilance and I like lifelink because it makes it a lot harder for your opponents to tag you back.
Well, as I always say, a good defense is a strong offense.
Here of Bladehold, this is another attacking enabler that puts attacking tokens into play. It also has Battlecry. You could layer it so they happen differently. You put the Battlecry trigger on first, 3-Dog after, and then the tokens on. Tokens will come into play tapped and attacking. 3-Dog will put on the auras and everything, and then the Battlecry trigger happens. If you want to learn to stack, this is a good deck for that. Keeper of the Accord, this is a nice recovery option or building option. You get a token whenever someone has more bodies than you on every end step, and then you also get to tutor a land should someone have more lands than you. This deck is quite mana hungry because of the 3-Dog ability and because of the auras you're playing. I did manage to keep the CMC down to 1.8. I'm only running 33 lands. When I'm sub 2 CMC, 33 seems just fine. I never have issues when I run this kind of land count with that average CMC. Leonin War Leader, another attacker that puts in attacking bodies to get those 3-Dog triggers. Redemption Choir, I've never played Redemption Choir. I've always had an interest. It's like a cheaper Sun Titan. Again, you could layer it with your 3-Dog. You could get an aura you sacrificed in the past, throw it on 3-Dog, 3-Dog trigger will resolve. You could take it back off, do the thing again. You just need to acquire the Coven mechanic. Adhari Sun's Glory. This is an attack enabler, puts in token bodies. It also scales with as the game goes on. Should the Phoenix die, you could tap a Rebel in 4 mana to bring it back from your graveyard. And it kind of saves your progress in that you are putting experience counters on yourself. I've actually been whooped by this online. It seems to perform very well when this is in the command zone, so I'm going to see how it does in the 99. Sun Titan, we all know what this guy does. A recovery option. Functions like Redemption Choir, just with less stipulations to get what you want. My sorceries, instants, and artifacts, those are purely in here just for meeting deck counts. Now for the fun parts, the enchantment. Cartouche or Solidarity. On ETB, you make a 1/1 vigilance creature, so if you're making multiple copies of Solidarity, you'll fix your low creature count problem quite nicely. Ethereal Armor, this lets you scale up your board based on the number of enchantments in play, and it should be a lot. Not only are you going to go wide, but you might produce enough attackers that are very tall at the same time. High in Umbra, I find myself when I play this enchantment not giving this up so easily. Like I'll leave it on 3-Dog, and because once you sacrifice this, the 3-Dog's ability, and it leaves your 3-Dog vulnerable. This is like one of those things that I sacrificed the last possible moment. Sticky Fingers, this helps you solve your mana hungry problem, in that whenever a creature that's enchanted with this deals damage to a player, you get a treasure token.
We're the Sticky Bandits.
and it makes your board more evasive by giving it menace. Should the enchanted creature die, you also draw a card. It's a synergy piece, it's a card advantage piece, and it's a mana ramp piece. Pretty darn good. And if you want to count the evasion too, that's 4. This is a very dense enchantment for 1 mana. It's really powerful. All that glitters scales up your board real fast. Imagine making multiple copies of this. Another math conundrum to put yourselves in. Angelic Gift, this is a cantripping aura that also gives your board evasion. Bravado, another scary aura to make your creatures really tall really fast. Idolize, this came out in the new Fallout set. It's basically a more cracked out version of All That Glitters, because All That Glitters only cares about auras and equipment. Idolize cares about all non-land permanents, so even worse and more math. If you love math, I think this will be your deck. I'm a lover of math, so you might have to like make a little equation and keep it on your table next to you or next to your deck so you could calculate things much faster than doing it all in your head. Nurturing Presence. This has an ETB where you put a body into play, and then whenever a creature enters the battlefield that turn, it gets +1/+1. So you can imagine how crazy this affects with like the creatures put things into play. If you make copies of this, the tokens coming in and the 3-dog trigger happen before damage is dealt. You'll size up your board incredibly large before you officially connect with anything. Sphere Mantle gives your stuff pro creatures and +1/+1 till end turn. This doesn't affect 3-dog because 3-dog doesn't target. It's just a blanket effect. It's not a nombo with 3-dog if that's what you're concerned about. You sadly can't run traditional protection because you won't be able to enchant your stuff any further. You'll attempt to throw the enchantment on. Say you gave your creatures pro white and you try to throw a Sphere Mantle on it, the Sphere Mantle will just fall off. There are some protection spells that prevent you from forcing them to fall off when they come on, but it doesn't prevent all subsequent auras that come after from falling off. Unfortunately, to avoid that nombo, I just didn't play traditional protection effects. Battle Mastery gives your board double strike. That's probably a game ender. Atali's Favor, this is a card advantage piece. It also gives enchanted creatures +1/+1 and trample. When it enters the battlefield, you discover 3. So it's like Cascade. Something that I did that was pretty hilarious in this deck playtesting as with Atali's Favor and Monastery Mentor is just batshit crazy. You'll make a 1/1, all the prowess triggers happen, and then you have the Discover trigger that happens, and if you hit another aura, you do it again. And if you have this enchantment on 3-dog, it's like in terms of card advantage. It's like skipping multiple turns in terms of how many permanents you dump into play with the Atali's Favor with 3-dog. I'm playing the Mage Marks in this deck because they're scaling Anthem effects. Creatures you control that are enchanted get +1/+1 and have first strike. If you make copies of this, they stack. In terms of giving bonuses. I'm playing this one and the white one. I was gonna play the white Impetus, but because it's an attack trigger, you would have to wait for a revolution of the table to get what you truly want. The Mage Marks don't care if the attack trigger is passed because you'll still get all the bonuses. Redemption Arc, this is just a flexible indestructibility protection spell. I can enchant my own creatures, give them indestructible at the expense of they're all goated, but I mean, you're gonna attack with all of them anyway, so what do you really care? And then you could play defensively, throw it on a scary thing that someone else has, like an Eldrazi, and then once it becomes a 1-on-1 match, you could exile that creature. It's one of the best scaling Impetus cards in the game, I think. Shiny Impetus, this is gonna be exclusively used on your stuff because you want to make copies of it so you can make treasure. Unfortunately, treasure token is an attack trigger, so when you sack it to 3-dog, you'll only make 1 because the attack trigger has officially passed. But if you manage to keep all the copies of Shiny Impetus in for the following turn, you'll make a ton of mana. Squire's Devotion, it puts a lifelink body into play, and it also gives your board +1/+1 and lifelink. Sound of the Drums, this is another great Impetus card. The difference with this one is it doubles the damage that you're dealing to people, and then you can get it back even after you sacrifice it to 3-dog if you have nothing else better to do. Timely Ward, another indestructibility piece. I only included 2. I could have ran Shielded by Faith, but then I was worried about like getting multiple cards with indestructibility utility and not having anywhere to put it, if that makes sense, because indestructibility doesn't stack, and I didn't want any dead cards. Example of Redemption Arc, or if I drew Timely Ward, I could play them differently, if that makes sense. They're not dead cards if I end up drawing both of them. And Question Authority, another pro creature spell that also cantrips. Angelic Destiny. Fun thought I had with this card is, even after you make tokens of Angelic Destiny, if the original copy's in your graveyard, should the token versions die, it doesn't specify that it has to be that particular enchantment. It just says return Angelic Destiny to its owner's hand. You could just target the original copy, get it back. Armored Ascension. This is another finisher. You're running 13 planes. Give your board +1/+1 for every planes and flying. An oldie and a goodie that I haven't played in a long time. Quarter to Ardenvale. This is another thing that cares about CMC and acts like Sun Titan. Only it's Monarch, so it also functions like card advantage. Sage's Reverie. You could die to this spell, so be careful with it, because you'll draw for each aura that's in play, and then you make multiple copies of it, and then you scale off of it as well. It's good in the early to mid game, but in the late game, if you have a big board and a lot of enchantments in play, don't play it. Grim Reaper Sprint. This is an extra combat spell, and it's a really cheap one, because it has more, but if something dies, it officially becomes a 2-mana spell and not a 5-mana spell. And it's something you can copy, so I'm very interested to try and test this out. The rest are lands, and that's for fixing utility, like Ministereth is for card advantage, same with Roadside Reliquary, and that's basically it. You could play around with this and pick and pull some cards to add more extra combat steps. This is one of those decks where I ended up having a lot of cards on the back end to cut. I think I was at like 120, time to like finish up the deck. To have it come out to be only $75, that's also a huge plus. If you're looking for a fun and unique deck and you like auras, you want a world where you can go both very tall and very wide, this is the deck for you. Everyone take care now. Have a great night. Bye.
Until next time, this is Three Dog, ow! And you're listening to Galaxy News Radio, bringing you the truth, no matter how bad it hurts.